everybody. What's up, and welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, a podcast that talks about comic books, movies, TV shows, and of course, we feature a beer of the week. I am Matt. With me is Lauren, and we have some special guests talking about a wicked, great comic. We're going to get into that in just a second on our special Creators Corner episode. First things first, as always, my personal beer of the week, unofficially sponsoring this, is from Barrique Brewing out of Nashville, Tennessee. It is their barrel-aged lager beer. T-Mav 12 degrees. I can't pronounce a single thing straight, whether it's a name, whether it's a beer, but we'll go with it. It's a 5.1% ABV Czech dark lager. It is wicked good. Honestly, it's brewed with floor malted Bohemian malts and Czech Saz. Again, I'm illiterate, but if you're on YouTube, that's kind of the can. And it's dark. Nice little smooth drinker for a Wednesday, because we still have a couple days to go of work when we're recording this. Lauren, hi. I see your Disney trip went well. How's what beer you got?
My Disney trip?
Weren't you just at Disney? Facebook told me you're at the Tron.
I was at Magic Kingdom today. I thought you meant our trip that we're doing to Disneyland. Yes, I got to go on the Tron Magic coaster today. I was like, I thought because this would release in the future and I had already gone to Disneyland.
Oh, no, not yet. No.
So I was like, I don't know. I hope it went well. We got to do the pass holder preview today for Tron. It was really good. Very short, but it was really good. It goes really fast, and they lock you in. If anybody's been to Animal Kingdom on Flight of Passage, they lock you in like that. So it's like you're like laying on your stomach. Oh. And I was a little concerned I was going to lose a flip flop for a second, but I managed to crinkle my toes and hold on to my flip-flops. But it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. We're like on the way to Disney today. I'm like, I probably should have made the kids watch Tron. It was a rookie mistake. So I got my oldest watched the older one and the newer one years ago, but I need to sit down with the younger ones and make them watch it. But Logan had to stay home because he was too short. You got to be 48 inches. But my beer is actually, I'm going to say Disney themed. It is Great Notion. It's orange creamsicle. It's 7%, and it is a IPA with tangerine and natural flavors, and it contains milk sugar. I was a little concerned with the milk sugar. I was just trying not to get a triple IPA because those are all the phenomenal ones that are in my fridge, but I was trying to keep it a little lower ABV tonight. But the milk sugar is not overwhelming. Sometimes it's too sweet, but it's a fox holding a giant popsicle, so it kind of looks like it's really good, but it kind of looks like the fox, from Zootopia. Because remember, he has the giant popsicles.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think they're making
it's one of his cons. That's right.
Yeah. With his little kid that he buys the giant popsicle and then resells it. That's Jason Bateman.
That's right. Yes. And that voice you hear in the background, let's go ahead and kick it off. Christian, welcome to the show. Tell us about yourself. What is your role in this comic book? And what beer are you drinking today?
So many instructions. I hope I do this right.
Oh, God, what do I do? Look at me. Listen to her.
I'm going to start with the beer because you guys knew so much about yours. I had to bust out my glasses and read the bottle. So I've got a Brooklyn black chocolate stout. Is that on camera? I don't have my self view on.
You're good.
Okay. Oh, good. And it's an imperial stout. I love stouts. I love porters. I love heavy. I love dark beers. I did not jump onto the IPA thing that happened. I don't really dig them until I discovered that I like double and triple IPAs. You just said the triple IPA. It's the weirdest thing. I do not enjoy an IPA, but you give me maybe it's just because I get drunk really fast.
If it's not 10%, I don't want it.
And this sucker is 10%.
They tend to not be as strong on the IBU, so it's not as much like hops smacking you in the face.
I think that's what it is. I don't think I like that. But someone was like, you got to try a double IPA. My buddy Bruno, when you're watching this is all about you. He's my beer connoisseur buddy, and he said, I said, I don't like IPAs. You're going to give me a double IPA? That's like giving me 2 helpings of broccoli because I didn't want one, and I was wrong.
Like cooking the broccoli a little bit more so it has more flavor.
I was wrong, and it was absolutely delicious. But this is a stout. It's a chocolate stout, which I love. There are a lot of coffee stouts out there. Yeah. I like them, but I'm not a huge coffee guy. You go the chocolate angle, you got me. So I'm digging this. My name is Christian DeMatteo. I am the co-founder of Fugitive Poems Comics. And I'm lucky to be the co-founder because I wouldn't be the co-founder without James Lyons, my partner, who made this really help make this dream of mine come true. And we are we are Fugitive Poems and we make comics is one of my favorite things to say, because that's James and I. And because of this company, we got to meet folks like Dustin Luke Nelson, who's one of my favorite humans on the planet, and now Matthew and Lauren. So this is terrific. So we've got a book that's in Kickstarter, and I could talk about that after. But thank you guys so much for having me on.
Absolutely. And since we've had Dust on the show, we're going to get to him. But James, first time caller, welcome to the show. The partner in crime, of course. Welcome. How's it going?
Started to leave.
Yes, the other significant other in Fugitive Poems. I do the art for our collaborations and the lettering and the coloring and so forth. And the beer I have is one of my favorites. Lagunitas, I think. Little something. They changed the label on me. I got into this purely by the label. They used to have like I think she was like a roller skate sort of waiter at the time, but they changed it around.
Yeah.
Totally.
Especially with the name, I guess it's a little inappropriate these days, but I liked it. But I still love the beer. It's a smooth. Yeah, I got to get out my glasses too, Christian.
DeMatteo always makes fun of me when I have to pull out my readers. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
I already got the glasses.
Just never take them off.
Exactly. That's your first mistake.
Smooth and silky wheat IPA, 7.5 ABV. It's perfect. I usually like the slightly lower count. I'm more like a 5.5, 6.5 guy, but this one really hits me nice. Like something like the Sierra Nevada torpedoes. Do you ever have those?
Oh yeah.
I love them.
Gateway IPAs.
Then I'll drink. If I drink 3, then I want to drink 4, and I drink 4, and that's it. I get wishy-washy. So
you just hate when that happens. You sit down to have one, and next thing you know, you're about 6 deep, and oh god, I still got to wake up in 3 hours and go to work. How am I going to pull this off?
I don't hate when that happens. I roll with it.
We're just going to see where it takes us today. But no, that is a good beer. I love Lagunitas. They're a great company and one of the first ones that I have ever gotten into. But of course, last but certainly not least, he was on the show last summer. We are bringing him back. Dustin, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me back. I'm so glad to do this again.
Always.
Yeah. I think last time we did this, it was just me and you, and it was 10 a.m. and I had an honorary beer.
That's right. Yes, we were. Neither of us were really in the drinking stage because it was one of those. Hey, we were trying to work it out, and it was morning for both of us. And we're like, all right, it's fine.
Yeah.
So we're doing it proper this time.
Yeah, and I think I drank that beer that night, but I grabbed one and I was like, I can't remember. Didn't listen back and was like, I think I'm grabbing the exact same beer, which is a Lupulin. Just local. I wanted to represent something local. But then I saw when I was grabbing that I had to switch it up. I don't know why I haven't opened this. Making it a special occasion. I got the Sierra Nevada collaboration with Colonel E.H. Taylor. It's a bourbon barrel aged barley wine ale.
Ooh, bourbon barrel aged barley wine. Damn, what's the ABV on that?
Yeah,
it's 15.
I've never seen that.
Honestly, I thought it was going to be higher because it's barrel aged and barley wine.
DNI, good night, Irish.
I was really hoping I'd get a nice pop on.
I know. I was waiting. I was sitting in anticipation. I was like, "Oh God, it's gonna pop!" And it was just like, it happened.
Real metaphor for my life. It was a real letdown there. Whoops. Yeah, so that's why I'm busting up. I really wish we could get these in like smaller bottles because I want to do this for a special occasion. But at 15%, and it's like as big as my head.
Bummer. Yeah. It's a wine bottle.
I have that same. I have a few in the fridge.
Tragic to have all that beer.
Oh my gosh!
You're just gonna drink it
all to yourself. Lauren and I regularly have that conversation where we're like, we have these bottles that we've been saving. We're like, man, sometimes it'd be nice to be able to record together in person because it's our significant others don't always want to split the beer so we don't want to drink it all to ourselves because more often than not we're recording and the next day still a weekday. And
my husband doesn't like the barrel aged stuff. So to me, I love him because every sip gets better because you get more of the flavor out. And he's not a fan of them. And the one time we did record and I drank a barrel-aged beer, oh my God, I was slurring. I was yelling at Matt about sharks. It was
I'm gonna get there.
It gets crazy.
As I set this bottle down and it starts to have a little bit more of a hollow sound, if I start yelling, just what's going on.
It wasn't me yelling. It was like
cut his mic.
Oh yeah, just lots of like gesticulation,
a lot of emotion and shock in my tone and everything I said.
My hands are going wild.
Dustin's gonna be like fugitive palms, more like fugitive poops. Thank you, Dustin.
Yeah, I mean, like on the straggler on, my job will be to hassle you throughout this, mostly with puns.
Ooh, I love a good pun.
I love it. We love it. Well, we are here to talk about a book, and Fugitive Poems is the company, but you guys wrote a little story called Containment Breach. What can you tell us about this? And it's volume 2. So it isn't the first volume that we've had out. It's a nice little anthology series, correct?
Correct. So I should have had them closer on hand. I put on my self view so I know if I have anything on camera. I don't like keeping self view on because apparently I keep getting older and I notice every time I look.
You're like, oh God.
What happened? How did this happen? So we put out Containment Breach Volume 1 in I guess that was 2020. James and I were working on our own stuff, and I was talking to a gentleman named Matt Queen on Twitter about comics, and joking back and forth, we said, how fast do you think we could put something out, put an anthology together? And the world had shut down, so there was time. Sort of like that Twilight Zone episode with the glasses.
The whole world stood still for. I'm still feel like there's years. I'm younger because we've lost like 3 years at this point.
Yep. So we decided to give it a shot, and we decided to put it out under our banner. And it was the first thing that Fugitive Poems ever put out. Was we did it like a zine. It's got comics, it's got essays, it's got all kinds of stuff in it, and it also is the only place where you can get now. The first chapter of our coming one-shot, River. It's the only place, and we are discontinuing it. This is probably the last campaign where you'll ever be able to get. This is the second printing of Volume 1, and we're probably not going to print it again. So we did that, and the theme was Quarantine Chronicles, and everyone had to write a story. I know it's a shock. Where did that come from? But not about the pandemic. It had something to do with quarantine. And then what we did was we got every team to come up with an individual creative prompt. And then we shuffled those around. And so you had to write a story that somehow fit under the theme of Quarantine Chronicles, and somehow also included this weird prompt you had gotten. And it was only a couple of us, and we had a great time with it. And it ended up being popular. So we decided to do it again. And we were going to do another zine. That's like 50 pages. We were going to do another zine, a mix of stuff. So many people wanted to be involved. We put out a 160-page book of just comics. No articles. No, it's not a zine. It's a full anthology. And then this was a smash hit on Kickstarter, which was another shock to us. So the theme of this one was Myth Reborn. And the idea was you had to write a story that somehow dealt with a mythology. It could be classic, it could be urban, it could be and turn it on its head in some way. And then we did the same thing now with all these other teams. Everyone had to submit a prompt. Terrible Twos, the Guardian of the Sacred Tree. Everyone came up with some. I shuffled them around, and we got wholly original work. It was a big hit, so we decided to do it again, and that's where Volume 3 and
we got Dustin in on too. That's when he came into the
right.
Yeah.
So we got Volume 3 and 4 coming because so many people applied to be in it. We decided we didn't want to turn all these great people away. We did 2 volumes at once. So we're going to be putting out another volume later this year. But as James said, this is how we met Dustin Luke Nelson, who all hyperbole and then joking aside, one of the greatest profits of having done this is getting to know Dustin, who's just an incredible human being and a freaking brilliant talent. Speaking of which, what's the language rating on this show?
It's
you're fine.
Don't worry,
Whatever
you're fine.
want.
We speak very freely here.
Okay, don't tell me not to worry because I'll go.
I mean,
seen him do it.
I was going to say, to see you next Tuesday is I mean, after a barrel aged beer, I'd probably go there too. But no,
I know, Mama didn't raise no fool. I'm not doing that unless I'm doing a British accent at the time.
There you go. I like that. But no, we definitely dropped the F-bomb here and there. So
fucking A. All right, so that's what this is. Volume 3's theme is I just cursed and forgot everything else. Volume 3's theme is Clouds and Ether, and it turned into a full sci-fi book. And Dustin doesn't know this yet. This is a cool place to tell Dustin this.
Surprise.
Dustin and Gabe.
I'm gonna watch Dustin now.
Dustin
Your children
and Gabe
aren't yours.
got to
And you're fired.
Thanks for doing it live.
Surprise, you're not coming back for the 5th installment.
Yeah, you're fired.
We've actually reprinted volume 2 and removed you from it.
I don't blame you. I would have done the same thing. It was a wise decision.
Dustin's story was so good and so beautiful, the art by Gabe Martini in volume 2, that when we did we kind of put these together like a mixtape after they all come in and fit what the feel of it would be. Dustin and Gabe's story, Dad's Lesson in volume 2 was the first one. And I have not told Dustin this yet, but you and Gabe and Jack Van Tome, who did the coloring, have the number 1 slot in, you've got the first story in volume 3 as well.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
That's all Gabe there. Gabe's an amazing talent. That guy's art is just spectacular. I don't have to do anything.
You guys are a team. The idea that you came up with, the way that you two work together, and then Jack Fantome with the coloring and watching you guys all work that way. Dustin has got an unbelievable imagination, and we're honored to have his stuff in our book.
I mean, okay, so this is just a side where I don't want to start rambling so early.
Listen, he's already got the 15%. He's like, oh God, guys.
I mean, yeah, I'd be feeling.
I had
His chest
sips
is
and I'm
burning.
We're getting emotional now.
He had 2 more before the show.
Yeah, this is my third.
You see, when Matthew was opening the show, Dustin took it to the head.
I was hoping no one noticed. I wanted to have a glass to pour this into.
I didn't notice, and I thought Christian was kidding at first.
No, I totally did.
I was hoping no one noticed.
So the story, I did it in the new volume with Gabe. So it's the second time we'd worked together, and I loved working with Gabe. We were both had when this was kind of happening. I talked to Christian about getting involved. I'm jumping the gun here because you should hear more about the anthology, but whatever. Gabe, we were like, all right, so we're both super busy. Would I want to work with you again? If I'm going to do this, I want to work with you. And he was like, yeah, sure, for sure. I can squeeze it in. Do you think you could write me a 2 to 3 page story? Could we do 2 to 3 pages? And I was like, absolutely, Gabe. If that's what you can handle, I'm there for you. I got 2 to 3 pages. And so I wrote a treatment and then sent him a script and was like, so I stuck to your confines and I have a 14-page script for you. Just like you requested. Poor Gabe that he knows me at all.
James, we're all the same. James is listening to this as an artist, and I do this shit to him all the time. We're all the same.
I felt so bad on it because I usually try not to be that guy, and I was like, I wasn't that guy so many times that I have to do all of that right now. I'm just getting all.
Is that ever how, as an artist though, when you're like, hey, can you give me 3, and you come back with 14, 15 pages, what's the thought process behind that? You're just kind of like, what? Or what goes through your head at that point?
James would know best. What I think Gabe should have done is say no. And I'm very, very thankful he did not.
I think it would, we kind of, Dustin and Gabe knew each other from the previous volume, but most of these people don't really know each other. So they do a lot of back and forth with the script. Usually every time I talk to Christian, the page count goes up a little bit. So it's just something you deal with. Also, I don't know if it's, I'm kind of spoiled because Christian and I work really closely and we go back and forth all the time. I've never really worked where I'm just handed something and then the writer goes off and does something else. It's like the collaborative part's the really cool part. So, and sometimes I'll also, the visuals, Christian will be thinking of something, but he'll have either too many ideas on one panel, or I can adjust stuff, and sometimes our page count will actually change a bit, because I'll combine two ideas together into one image, or something the other way around. So it always works out.
For our volume 4 story, which is awesome. And that's not me complimenting me. That's what James has done. It's a wild story that he's made freaking beautiful. I floated the idea, and he's like, listen, we got a lot of stuff going on. We're making a lot of stuff. Can you do that in like 8 pages? Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, all right, it's going to be 10. But there's a 2-page spread in there that's like one image. I mean, that's easy, right? And it'll probably be more like 11. It's kind of 12 at the moment, but it's also 14. And that one ended at 14, because I had a feeling if I said 15, he'd split my head open. But the best feeling in the world for a writer is when the artist says, you got a lot going on these pages. It's 4 pages, but I think it might work better as 6. And you're like, oh, really? You think so? Oh, no. Oh, not 6.
Oh, no. I have to. Oh, darn. That's terrible. What will I do?
I mean, if you're okay with it, I'll try and make it work with the script.
With this idea of kind of anthology series, and everybody was on board, did you expect that kind of initial reaction of, wow, we have this idea, we want to do this anthology, which is something that's not really seen a lot in comic books. It's very almost rare, at least in my world. Maybe my sphere bubble isn't big enough. But were you surprised by the initial reaction of, dude, we have so many people that want to do this, and now we're 162 pages deep?
Yeah, I'm happy to say we didn't innovate the idea, but it has become a lot more popular. Like most of the players in Containment Breach 3, they're also doing other anthologies, so it's becoming a lot more popular. Just like on some of the TV shows like Love, Death, and Robots, and what's that one? What's that Western one? I love that Western one. I always want to say Earl Scruggs, but it's
Buster Scruggs, the Coen
Buster Scruggs, yeah.
Ballad of Buster Scruggs, yeah.
So that sort of anthology format, the short story format, is getting real popular. We were super excited to get so many people into Containment Breach 2. So we had that one worked out pretty well. We had we didn't get so many that we had to turn away the masses, but we got some. We really upped the quality content, and that's just going up from there. When we finished 2, it kickstarted real early. We funded on Kickstarter in 36 hours. Wow. And sort of got double the almost 200% over our total, so 100% over. And that was exciting in itself, because that was our first Kickstarter. We're kind of babes in the woods there. We just sort of did it as we came. And then about a year later, when was it after we did 2 that we started taking applications? Was it about 6 months?
Well, it was about 3 months after the delivery of 2. So yeah, it was about we delivered in I think in February of 2022, and we started taking applications maybe in June. I was running a little late, so maybe it was more like June. We took applications for 3. Right. But 2 was fresh in people's heads, and apparently it paid off.
Yeah. So for 3. We got so many applications that we decided that we're going to put together 2 books at once. So we actually have been working on both 3 and 4 simultaneously. So we thought it would be a good idea to have two books about the same size as CBV2 instead of like a 300-page book, because then we'd have to price it really high. We didn't think people would want to pay $60 for an anthology. So we split it into 2, and we filled up 2 books, and have spent the last 6 months bouncing our heads off the wall doing all the work. Christian and our senior editor do a lot of the heavy, and guys like Dustin, we kind of get double work out of some of our contributors. Usually the writers also do some of the editing not just their own stories. Sometimes they'll edit other stories. For instance, Dustin, he edited Delphine and
No, he didn't do Delphine. He did Thermoclines for us.
oh yeah, that's right, Thermoclines.
Yeah.
So sometimes we get double duty out. Those guys.
Jordan Patrick Finn did Delphine for us. So it was awesome.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Jordan. So we just worked on both of those at once, and it was a lot of work. But now it's going to pay off because we can kickstart 2 books in 1 year, and eventually, I haven't had it happen yet, but we were hoping that at some point we would get time to do some other stuff like finishing up that one-off that we were talking about. It hasn't happened yet though.
It's like the project car that sits out there. You're going to get to it.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're working on it a lot.
It's our muscle car.
Yes.
Right.
Now,
I'm like one of those weird old guys on American Pickers. It's yards full of those good junk cars. I feel like there's so many I was gonna do. I was gonna work on all of them.
I was actually talking to Christian about that before the show. I was like, I have always these ideas sitting in there, and I'm always just been putting it off. And it's the good analogy that just popped in the head is, it's those junk cars. You're like telling your wife, I promise I'm going to get to those eventually. And she's like, you don't need this. And I'm like, but I do. And they just sit there. And now it will get done. I promise.
Just finish the damn project. My husband starts so many projects and he just doesn't finish them. And then he just gets rid of them. I'm like, you wanted to build the towers to plant the shit out back, and then you just got rid of them? Just finish them, guys. Come on.
Don't worry
Eat that frog.
I have 2 full-size Ford Broncos. One that my wife liked because we can actually get in it and drive around. The other one she doesn't like so much because it sits and looks sort of rusty in the backyard. It does actually run, but it's so rusty that it's brutal. I live up here in New England, and it's not nice to cars.
It is not as a Massachusetts not native anymore, but that's where I'm from. And the salt just eats those cars away, as Dustin also knows from the Minnesota, and Lauren knows nothing. Lauren's in
I learned about that from Ant-Man when they had to wash the under part of the car. And I was like, why would anybody ever do that? And somebody told me, because they salt the roads up north for the, I mean, I could see doing that if you live by the beach.
Yeah. The salt eats away pretty fast.
Are you down in Florida, Lauren?
Yeah. I've lived in Florida my whole life.
With the Disney talk. And I heard you saying Wicked, Matthew, but you don't have the real strong Boston accent.
I don't. My dad does. He has it. My brother has it. And I don't. I do when I get mad. Now, speaking of cars, when I get, mad in the car and stuff, it comes out. My daughter actually kind of has one, funny enough. But I don't.
In Florida, we just flick people off.
Oh, we do plenty of that up here.
Oh yeah, we do the whole. We run the whole gambit. All right.
We're very polite in New York.
But you down in Florida, you can keep your window open longer and really get the full arm extension. We gotta keep our windows up. You gotta
but in Florida you can get shot.
First, get the frost off the window and then give them the pen.
I rubbed the ice off just specifically for this moment.
I've never rubbed ice off my car ever. So going back to the whole anthology series and having volumes, do you have any stories that will continue or that have like Easter eggs or are connected to other stories?
Oh, that's actually an interesting question, because the answer would have been no up till now. It only is connected because of an Easter egg. It's really cool that you said that. So I've got 2 stories. I've got a number of 1-page stories, but I've got 2 larger stories. Ones that I said would be 5 or 6 pages and ended up being 12.
I'm sure it was because the artist wanted to make them more pages, of course.
And it's not me. I do whatever the artist. It's for the artist. I want to give them quality stuff. Lots of cool things to draw.
Practice makes perfect.
Never for me. Purely a selfless act. So I've got a story with James called Thermoclines that Dustin was the editor for. And I cannot stress this enough. Fugitive Poems, we also are editors, and it's one of the services we offer and that we charge for. So this is the dumbest thing I can do as a businessman, but I can't not tell people that Dustin is one of the very greatest editors I have ever worked with. And if you're writing a comic Go to Dustin. In fact, the people that he worked with, the Hill brothers, who have one of the wildest stories in Volume 3 called Hemlock, which is freaking just amazing craziness. Dustin was their editor. And they contacted me about a month ago, and they're like, we want to work with Dustin again. Is he Fugitive Poems, or can we? And I'm like, no, you go call Dustin. You guys are the three. You were amazing together, but they want to work with Dustin again, and I get it, because I am a terrific editor. I know that because what I know is people have said to me and what I've seen come out. But you can't edit your own stuff. I'm an idiot when it comes to editing.
No. Well, you fix your own mistakes in your head.
Right. Yeah. But so what James is talking about, having too many elements in one panel, I will crucify you for doing that. I will help you fix that. I will clean it up. And then I will sit down at the computer and write a panel with 15 elements in it, 15 actions in it. The idea elements is like, it's a still image. Yeah. But sometimes writers are like, well, he walks into the room, picks up a sandwich, and shoots the guy across the street. And it's like, well, I can't do that in a still image. And that's that, right? So that kind of stuff, I'll help you all day long. We'll break it up. I'll tell you, by the way, this is redundant. You don't need to have this. We'll make it beautiful. And then I'll go and do that exact mistake on my own script. Dustin's insights into thermoclines, which was a rough idea. It's a dialogue-heavy comic, which is kind of antithetical. But I had this idea, and it's really two guys talking. It really is more the world of a stage play. But I thought it would work. And I think it does work greatly because of Dustin's commentary on it and everything that Dustin offered. He got it. He didn't tell me, no, you can't do that. He was down with the experiment, but he also was the voice of reality. And the best thing that an editor can be, he had solutions. Everyone can point out problems, right? That's easy.
Yeah,
but he had solutions and ideas and exciting concepts. And to me, that's the mark of a great editor. So we've got that story. And then I've got another story that I did with an incredible artist named Jay Sheik. Band of Bards just put out the first issue of his Hush Ronin series, and it's beautiful. And we did a story called The Yankovic Theorem. And Mark Capitelli, our senior editor, was the editor on that. So to answer your question, there is a page where the characters end up for a moment in a different world. And that world is directly from James's creation from another story that we've got coming out. That will be probably in another volume. So that otherwise they're completely separate. It's an opportunity to play in a playground and not worry about world building, not worried about just say, here's a short story. Right. But there is that Easter egg. And Mark Capitelli did a great job editing that one. I'm lucky to know a lot of terrific people.
Do you think you'll build any more on any of that in the future? Like because I always love that it's like people can enjoy things, like Kevin Smith movies are a great example. You can enjoy Mallrats completely on its own, but when you've seen, Clerks, Mallrats is better. And, all of that, like just having those, like the Leonardo DiCaprio moments, I guess is what we call them now.
Yes.
So do you think you will build any of that?
When Ben Affleck gets to play two different parts in Dogma because of Chasing Amy and Mallrats, right? As far as, and Dustin can speak to this too, it's about what hits him. And, sometimes you write a story and that's it. That's what it was. But I was actually thinking about our first story in Containment Breach Volume 1 today, which is called Shelter in Flames. And we created Queen Dyla for that. It's a very, very short story, 5 pages. And that floated back into my head today, and I got a new idea for another story in that world. And I wanted to deal with that queen a little bit more that we ended rather quickly in that story.
You're just letting everything build organically.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Works at the moment, yeah.
Lauren, when I force a story, it always sucks. And there are those people that they get a paycheck to write a sequel to a movie and they manage to do a great job with it. And maybe that paycheck is
very rarely.
Right. That's true. Yeah. I can't write it if it's not happening. I don't know, Dustin, if it's like that for you.
Yeah. And I've been paid to follow things up before, and you can do it. And yeah, if it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel good. I mean, I've definitely had stories and anthologies where I'm like, oh, you know what? This is like a proof of concept for like this big thing and everybody's going to love it. And like finish that. And you're like, yeah, I think that's actually probably all that's interesting here. And had it the other way where like, I actually think the one that Gabe and I did, and so I edited a bunch of stories in both upcoming anthologies, but have one story I wrote in there. And that's kind of, sparked something new that I was like, oh, maybe this is there's a lot more to this. That can go all over the place. Yeah. So I also note, just because Christian's gone, I'm going to talk shit about him while he's gone.
Oh, he came back too soon.
Now I'm going to say something
Christian,
nice.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done.
Oh, just if anyone who buys, if you're listening and you buy Thermoclines is in volume 4, Christian and James? Three. Okay, 3.
One that just funded today.
Oh, I should be doing a better job here. I'm like not. So I'm gonna sell it right now.
You are fine.
Yeah, I'm fired in live. So his story, Thermoclines, that I edited, the way he described it as kind of a stage play, it does seem like it should be an awful description for a comic, but I feel like if you are listening to this and then read that, it's actually really interesting. As someone who like has no creative meat in this at all, I just watch them do their thing and was like, this is good, because it was. It actually is a really interesting lens to look at it through, because I think James really kind of created it in a way to feel like that, but it also, it feels like this David Mamet, like stripped down stage, couple people talking, but also becomes this like wild, all over the place, like just fucking beautiful. And also it's a pretty trippy comic. I mean, it really starts feeling like you're watching a stage play, and it turns into this like ethereal outer space weirdness. So you got a weird insight if you're listening to this and then get to read that of Christian talking about it as stage play, because that's not going to come through, I think, if you just sit down with it, but like is a really interesting way to look at it, because it kind of does tell a story of the progression of, one of the really good stories in this anthology.
When so much of this came down to James, because James was handed this talky script that he had to make visually interesting. Every panel is these guys talking. It's like, well, how many times did he draw the two heads looking at each other? And James did not do that at all. He made every panel fascinating to look at and vibrant and action. Even though there's a lot of talking, there is action in the panels, and he's got concepts floating in the background, and then there are page turns that are just going to knock you right on your butt. And that's all. James, I really handed James one of the biggest challenges of our career together, to make this good. He could have handed it back to me and been like, all right, so you're going to produce an off-Broadway play without me. But he figured out how to do it. And I'm, again, so lucky to be working with James.
Christian, am I able to, do you care if I give like a little bit of a description of that story?
Without the twist, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you got like two guys who appear to be hitmen, kind of talking about what they're going to do. They're cornered and are trying to find their way out of this situation. So I have edited this, and I was lucky to come in really early on the story, and like Christian was filling me in, like, here's what I'm going to do. Well, he was prefacing it like, I'm going to send you a script, and it's weird, man. And I was like, awesome. I love that. Let's do this.
Let's get weird.
Yeah, that's may have been an actual email I sent him. I go, yeah, man, I love it. Let's get so weird. I don't know what's going on. So I've been in the script a whole lot. I'm editing it. I've read it like, more than 20 times probably. And when I saw the first art, which was quite a ways along, even I was like, having known it that well, I was like, oh, whoa, holy shit. Like, okay. Yeah. Like that just shifted my thinking on this. So what Christian was saying, and not wanting me to say something, there's a turn in this story that like, is unexpected. Not M. Night Shyamalan, but like
Well,
logical in terms of narrative. Yeah, it makes sense.
He wasn't dead the whole time.
Yeah, no one was dead.
Did you read it?
The villagers weren't actually keeping them in the town.
Exactly. There's no fence that reveals it's just
The highway's
this
right
year.
on the other side.
Planes can't
Highway.
fly overhead.
I love that highway. It's maybe the worst thing that's happened to cinema.
Yeah.
And the first 3/4 of that movie is really pretty.
I was so excited to see that movie.
I've never seen it because I heard the twist. So
I
what's the
drug
point?
Yeah, there's no
somebody
point.
I drugged somebody to that movie, but you're right. When they reveal the
Drugged
twist,
them?
there's no planes, there's no helicopters, nothing flies overhead. You're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was.
Anyways,
Maybe
Anyways,
it didn't. I
this
thought it
turn
was
is
aliens.
Yeah, water. It was water.
A major writing. I love signs. There's a major writing lesson in The Village. You cannot scare someone with a villain once you tell them they're not really a villain. And in The Village, he explains the monster 3/4 of the way through, and then tries to use the monster again. And you're like, yeah, but I know what that is now. I'm not scared.
You need a new villain.
we're very
You need a new
they're
villain.
dressed up.
Was it Jaws where he barely showed the shark? That made it
No,
scarier.
Jaws, yeah. That's because the shark wouldn't work.
But not really.
Yeah.
You,
Bruce kept malfunctioning.
you get like a,
But it made it scarier though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God.
100%.
I was deep into Jaws thinking last night because I just watched The Tomorrow War for the first time, and
Oh, such a good movie.
Is that the one with Chris
Pretty
Pratt?
solid.
yeah,
Oh wait, yeah, that's what that one is. I always get that one confused with the
Tom
Are there
Cruise.
sharks
Tom
in
Cruise.
Tomorrow?
Tom Cruise and
If you
Emily
Google
Blunt.
The Tomorrow War, it lists the cast, and it's like Chris Pratt, Sam Richardson, Tom Cruise. So Google is as confused as everyone else is about that.
I always get confused.
Live, die, repeat, right? Everyone says
Yes, they
slogan.
changed the name.
No, they
Edge
never
of Tomorrow.
actually officially changed it, but we all go by the tagline because the tagline's so much better. And actually, the book it's based on a Japanese novel called something Kill. It's got a whole other title. I have it in the other room. I can't remember what it's called now. Always Say Kill or something like. It's got a weird title too. They nailed it with Live, Die, Repeat, and that should be the title.
Yes.
So wait, are there sharks in Tomorrow War?
No.
No, they just should have waited longer to show the aliens. They have like aliens in it.
Oh, there
and,
was
like,
aliens in it.
It's
and they don't show them for a little bit, and it's
not see
super
that
effective.
coming.
And then they're just like, yeah, whatever, fuck it. Here's the.
Well, that was like
aliens.
And then it becomes
signs.
like a
They waited
full-on
to show the
Starship
creepy
Troopers
ass
film.
alien.
Yeah. I was like,
All
come
You
on.
Need Is Kill is the novel by Hiroshi.
Oh, yeah.
Kurizaka. Good book.
All right. So one thing we always ask our creator guests that come on the show is, what is your geek origin story? So I want to start with James because we haven't heard from him for a minute. So basically, how did you get into the world of comic book creating?
Basically, my geeky friend in the other panel over there, Christian really got me into comics. I was always more of I've always done illustration, and I think my origins for maybe drawing comic books that, I always tell people that comics were the medium that I should have gotten into 20 years ago. I just say I never had a buddy or I had a younger brother, but neither of us were really into comics. So I don't really have this moment where I got into it other than through Christian. Christian's, I love Christian's writing, and I got a hold of one of his scripts, and I actually drew my first comic try, I guess you'd call it. It was one panel from Christian's script that I lifted off another guy's desk, another artist's desk at work. So I was always more into single illustration. I've never done, they call it sequential illustration. So it's been a long road figuring that stuff out. I was used to doing like one image and putting all into it, and then putting that aside, and then something brand new. With sequential, you gotta repeat everything you did in the last one and go to the next one. So I'm really crazy about putting a lot of detail into my work and so forth, and I've had to figure out that you can't do that again and again and again. Oh yeah, there's that's Delphine there.
That's our story in volume 2.
So Dustin's actually showing us a page from it.
Yeah. So
for those who are just listening.
So Christian's sort of my origin story, at least for comics. Yeah, I think the Containment Breach 3 version 3 is sci-fi. So I mean that goes all the way back to I was 6 years old when my mother took me to see Star Wars in '77. So that's my beginning of my sci-fi geek days. Still remember it, even though I was so young, standing in line and everything. As I think every other man, woman, and child who was around then, is their origin story was the
Right.
at least the 3 original Lucas films.
You say
So did you not know that Vader was their dad until you actually saw it in the theater?
Yeah.
So I feel like so few people can actually say that.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm the original. Yeah.
You saw Empire in the theater then?
I didn't even know they were going to blow up the Death Star in the first one. I mean, like I said, I was I'd have to do the math. 70. Yeah, I was six years old for A New Hope, and that kind of changed my world. My mother was also a big Trekkie fan, so those were of course repeats. But I saw every episode of the 3 seasons of the 64, 65 series with Captain Kirk. That was every night at 7:00 we would watch that because my mother was really.
My mom was like Next Generation or whatever the one with Charles Xavier was. Sir Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, I love those as well. But my favorites will always be the originals.
So you say you're surprised that you remember being 6 at the theater, but I was just talking today with somebody and they're like, what's your earliest theater experience? And I still remember clear as day waiting in line for hours dressed up as a Power Ranger for the Ivan Ooze film at 6 years old, funny enough. And it's just crazy how those memories, being so young, but they stick to you. This is one of those vivid memories. You don't remember anything else from your childhood except for being seated for A New Hope as one of your first like cognitive memories. And it's wild.
I remember being traumatized during T2 at 6 years old because I don't know why the hell my mother brought me to see that movie in the theater.
Yeah, I don't think I would have brought my child to Terminator 2 of all movies, but
that wasn't a normal thing for my mom. I don't know why, but I remember being terrified the whole time.
Not only is there all the violence to contend with, but then at the end, after you've fallen in love with him, you've got to deal with the
he
thumb.
becomes good.
Yeah.
It's just like the thumb going down and you're
broken and traumatized.
You know what's funny is like watching it later, like I honestly always thought it was T1. And then somebody did the math and they're like, well, how old are you? And it's like, I was born in 83. So he's like, no, that had to have been T2. I was like, oh, okay, it was T2, I guess. So I think my head was in my mom's chest most of the movie.
Yeah, so T1 was what, 84. So
yeah, so it couldn't have been T1 or I mean, if she brought me when I was 1, she wouldn't be a horrible mother because I probably would have slept the whole time. Right.
I remember seeing T2 because that was I was 20 and I just gotten off one of the coolest jobs in retrospect, one of the best jobs I ever had. I went and I did counseling at a Boy Scout camp way upstate New York, up in the Adirondacks. And by the end of the summer, I wanted to kill every child that was that age, like in between age 11 and 13. And I went to the movie theater with a friend, and sure enough, two young boys sat in front of me. They were like 12 or 13, and I believe I threatened their lives when they started getting loud.
My husband did that during the Batman.
If you don't shut up, I'm going to rip both your heads off. I remember saying they were quiet for the rest of the show.
Good.
Because I was counselor and I did archery for the whole summer, and like I said, it was the greatest job, but it wasn't necessarily the kids that made it the greatest job. It was being up there.
That age, they're assholes.
Yeah, they're just
they really are.
They're really getting the idea that they know it all, and they they don't give the counselors respect. But I did have a lot of fun with it.
I have a really important question about this movie theater situation. Did you have the beard at that point?
Oh, no, I was only 20. I did have a version of the beard, but I wouldn't have been able to go with that.
It wasn't that full.
A beard that vigorous is very intimidating.
It is.
It ups that threat by like a quotient of like 8.
It easily, it adds stats.
So we had teenagers.
I think you're serious if you say that with that beard.
Yeah,
Especially it's like 10 years old. You're thinking like, oh man, with a beard that glorious, you're like biker gang.
Yeah,
That was the first thought.
sure. No, I
I
was
feel like guys with beards are nicer.
and now I know that for sure.
But
if
when you're
a guy
10,
with a
you don't know
beard-
this.
yeah, guys get intimidated by beards. Women tend to like the beards, I think.
Sure, my husband has.
Most of the ones I made it say it's usually women like it.
Beards are sexy. Not gonna lie.
True. So, Dustin, I know we've already covered your geek origin story, but why don't you let Lauren know what was your kind of beginning?
I totally don't remember what I said before, so I'll probably contradict it entirely. It is like
Good news, it was like a year ago, and I don't even remember.
I don't know myself. No, so I
know myself.
I don't think what I would have said before isn't true, but I've actually been thinking about it recently because someone asked something similar, and I think I realized more of my geeky perspective on life, or the geeky things I do, was formed by Mystery Science Theater.
I love that.
I really like B movies. I watch a lot of them.
After my own heart.
But
that's the way to watch them.
I think the way I really got into them was Mystery Science Theater, being really young and watching. Because also, I mean, I'm from Minnesota, so we claim ownership to anything that has the remotest connection to us because there's so little in Minnesota. So, like Bob Dylan, we're still like, hey, Bob Dylan's ours, Coen Brothers. Yeah, they live in New York, but they are Minnesotans. So Mystery Science Theater, very Minnesotan. But I was very much
to say things that aren't Florida. Sorry, go ahead.
So I really grew up with like the Mike Nelson Mystery Science Theater, not the Joel's. I'm a little too young for Joel. So Mike Nelson, the Bill Corbett era Mystery Science Theater, like formed way too much. I mean, I still, it happened today. I still think of like things that were said in Mystery Science Theater, the movie, that just like pop into my head, and I'm like, want to say them to like my wife or friends who have not watched that movie. Really, the only person in my life anymore I can say it to is my daughter, who I made watch it, and she was like, "Yeah, I guess." I mean, that was kind of funny.
All right,
that was all right.
Every time I make my oldest daughter watch things, she judges my husband. We had her watch American Pie. She's like, she did not give consent to be filmed. This is a terrible movie. This is not funny. And I'm like, in hindsight, you are incredibly correct.
Listen,
but it's hard to explain to her. At the time, it was still funny.
Yeah, we.
No, but she's right. But
we've done some growing.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh,
is hysterical.
Oh my gosh.
Revenge of the Nerds
is not okay.
No, but when they do the panty raid, holy fuck! I watched that scene recently. Oh my gosh,
too,
it was crazy.
Well, how about the sex scene where she thinks it's her boyfriend?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, no, I remember watching that and being like, "This is brilliant comedy." Now you're like, "Oh no, that's rape."
Oh, that's rape.
That's
100%.
I had a similar experience. I watched Once Upon a Time in New York. I hadn't watched it in years and years. And I was really surprised at like how pretty much everything in that movie, how things have changed from then. There was actual rape scenes in there and stuff. And I didn't remember it as that. I remembered all the cool parts, and it's crazy. My kids judge me because I watch a lot of sci-fi films, and they don't like anything but CG. Like they don't dig like the old, like Labyrinth when I was a kid. That was like magic.
Oh, yes.
I love that movie. My son liked it when he was really little, but once he got old enough, he's like, this is puppets. This isn't CG.
They just don't appreciate art.
No, they don't appreciate, or what was the other one with Tom Cruise, Legend? There's just
Dark
stuff that I really love, and they're like, the graphics don't look that good.
Oh my god, when
it's all story and and all the work put into it.
I will say my kids do respect Steven Spielberg. E.T., like Jaws,
well, he does
Jurassic
a great job
Park,
of making
all
his
that
practical effects
up.
like timeless. Like if you go back and watch Jurassic Park with the animatronics, it holds
93 and it's still great.
Crazy.
Yeah, but Jurassic Park is CG. You guys are showing
but it's a combination.
It's a combination.
But the fact that it came out, like I distinctly remember seeing that in the theater. My mom was very adamant we were going to see it in Dolby surround sound, which was brand new at the time. And the fact that my kids can watch that today and don't nitpick it for the CGI is impressive.
Yeah,
It's true.
Yeah, it still holds up. Definitely.
It's true. Christian, we haven't heard from you yet. I know there's a good story in there. What you got?
My best story right now is actually about James, and I'll give you the brief rundown. But James said something to me once. So he's talking about not having. He is an old school geek, but he didn't know that. He's into sci-fi, but he wasn't a big comic guy, as he said. So one day we're talking about that as we're starting to get to know each other. And this is the greatest thing that James has ever said to me. It absolutely made me feel terrible. And he didn't intend to. He says, I said, you didn't read any of this or that, different comics, Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's that's my favorite superhero. And he goes, I didn't get to read a lot of comics, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? And I just looking at him, I'm like, I was reading comics.
He's like, shut up, nerd. I was out there living while you're over there reading your Spider-Man and your
See,
other
I
Men
didn't
in
get
Tights.
comics until like out of high school. I just read them until I was a full-on adult. And I just feel like that scene from Joey, like from Friends, where they're like, how do you not know who Gandalf is? You didn't read that in high school. He's like, no, I had sex in high school. I wasn't reading Lord of the Rings.
He's like, no, I was at Pearl Jam shows doing things you could only dream of.
Right, I was reading Lord of the Rings and Spider-Man. I remember where we were standing because he wanted me to be with him. It wasn't trying to make me feel we were like cool guys togetger, and I couldn't take that.
2 dudes being bros.
Yeah, he's like, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? And I'm just like, yeah.
Maybe without the rockin'. I mean, there might have been rock and roll in the background. Drugs.
Let me tell you more
probably
about
not.
the effect Uncle Ben's death had on Peter Parker. And then you can tell me about this sex thing.
Sex, yes. What is that? Hypothetically, is that a type
They
of
haven't
cake?
covered that in Marvel.
Is it cake?
Is it
Now
cake?
everyone in
Well,
Marvel
there
is
can
having
be
sex.
cake.
Yeah, no, we got panels of Mary Jane and Spider-Man doing the thing, and it's like, all right. This is what we've evolved to in comic books now.
So that is that story with James is my origin story. As I was reading comics. My father grew up in the Bronx. He was in gangs at like 6 years old, and when I started reading comics, he did not know what to do with me.
He's like, I don't know. I'm picturing like Greaser from Grease or anything. Just on the.
Well, he was born in 1946. So when I say gangs, I'm talking about singing doo-wop on the corner with a little garbage.
Yeah.
Like that shit actually happened, apparently.
Yeah.
And I started reading comics, and he was like, "Oh, okay."
My dad has those stories too. He was from the Bronx. He was born in 1934, and he tells these stories about how he would have police chases with cars, but all the cars would only do like 45 miles an hour, so it wasn't too hard to get away from the cops. And he talks about it. Did you guys? It's a kind of an old, probably as old as Lauren. Did you ever see The Outsiders based on the book? I think they showed that to everyone in school.
It's older than, yeah.
But the gang fights with the chains and stuff. My dad tells me stories about how they used to do that in the Bronx.
Yeah.
It was crazy down there at the time.
Mm.
That's
We
wild.
were talking about a movie with a knife
Definitely
fight,
like Grease. Yeah.
and I said to my dad, I said, "Oh, it was really cool. It'd be awesome to be in a knife fight." I was like 25. No, I'm kidding. I was like 6 years old, and my dad looks at me very seriously, and I just remember like the atmosphere in the room changing. He looks at me very seriously, and he says, "Nobody wins in a knife fight," and he walks away. And I just remember thinking, "Oh, there's more here."
Like, is my dad Batman?
So when I started reading comics, he was like, "Dad, Spider-Man and Ant-Man are teaming up." He was like, "Oh, okay."
He's like, great. He's like, look, they did a knife
That's
fight
probably
here.
the best thing you could have ever done. He was probably a little relieved. Like, okay, let's just let him live in this world so he doesn't ever know what it's like to be in a knife fight.
Thank God he's not pulling chains off the bike rack and beating kids in the school Lido parking lot.
Well, I ended up bartending later, but yeah. So my origin story is I'm a geek, a nerd, whatever the term is. I love literature. I love sci-fi. I love fantasy. I love books. I love comics. I love movies. I love music. I'm an art fanatic. I love
entertainment. I like cool shit. And I want to write cool shit. I've written novels and screenplays and anything that pops into my head. And when James handed me, and I didn't even know him that well yet, that panel of Pamela, as the character's name, walking down the street with this beautiful red scarf trailing behind her, and the mannequins in the windows of the shops on 8th Avenue are looking at her. I didn't even know what to do because I had never had anyone draw one. I had been writing comics for someone else, like his ideas, and writing them. I had never, Michael Grassi, a great dude. I had never had anyone draw my idea, and that's our origin story. I saw that, and I'm like, okay, you've got the pen of my brain. You've got the drawings that are in my brain, and the thing I always say about James is he does it exactly the way I was picturing it, except 40 times better. It's like he got the concept, but that's not at all. Even I didn't even think of that, and that's where I come from. I love cool stuff. I want to make cool stuff. I want to talk about cool stuff. And that's all.
I'm with you 100%. You're speaking to my soul right now. And
cheers.
Seriously, if I wasn't out of my beer, we'd be cheersing right now. But as we go ahead and get ready to wrap this up, I want to hear from each of you. If you can leave everybody with one thing, whether it's about yourselves, whether it's about Containment Breach, Fugitive Poems, whatever it is, drop it, leave us, and then also where can everybody find yourselves individually? Dustin, we'll start with you this time because you went last at the start. Guess what? You get to go first now.
All the pressure. It's getting to me.
A barrel of just barley wine.
Yeah, it's totally empty. I definitely drank all that. And I'm just.
Oh, you're kidding. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
I didn't know if I was impressed or concerned.
I had that like first half one, and I'm like, yeah, that's. I don't know what to do with the rest of this.
Matthew, ask him a really invasive question right now. Now's the time.
The quadratic equation.
I will. I will. You could ask me a question that for the rest of my life, I'll be like, I really hope my wife doesn't ever listen to that podcast.
Tell us about how you lost your virginity.
Okay.
Happened.
So I don't know how clear it was earlier. So James and Christian are Fugitive Poems. They do these anthologies. I am lucky enough to have had a couple stories in their anthologies and have edited stories for these anthologies. So I'm a little bit of a hanger-on, but I think it gives me just enough outsider status to just say, like, I really think people should take a chance on these. I feel like I did the first time putting a story in there. And the first time I edited anything with them. And it's been a delight, like, to just like their perspective on comics and storytelling, I feel like is fresh and inclusive and welcoming. And the end result of that is anthologies that have interesting stories and surprising stories. They're a delight to read because they aren't any kind of formulaic, like, this is how a comic should look, this is how a story should go. That's not what happens in Containment Breach. There is freedom for the artist, but they also provide a lot of resources to the artist. This isn't like, I know Christian called the first one a zine. Like, what they're doing isn't a zine. It is like polished stories, really beautiful work, interesting stories, a diversity of voices. It's really cool, and it's worth taking a risk on. So, that's the pitch I'm making for them. Is these anthologies are awesome. They, like, even as an editor, I definitely was handed scripts that I started with, and I was like, I don't know where they're trying to go, and what they've set up. The end result has been beautiful and really fascinating. It's just sort of a lot of really good stories. I mean, they're really great anthologies.
Thanks, man. I'll say,
thank you.
You are not an outsider, Dustin. You are an integral part of the Containment Breach series. And
as the poet Vin Diesel once said, family.
Yeah, we call our contributors fellow fugitives, and Dustin's right at the top of that scale. So thank you for all your work, and thanks for the kind words.
They do call them fellow fugitives.
We are very proud of these books. I have a history of graphic design and doing that kind of stuff. So I was able to hit the ground running, and I'll put the quality of not only 3, which like has already been said, was just funded today, and you can still take a look at on Kickstarter if you're interested. But even back to 2, I'll stand on the graphic design and the impeccable resolution and layout of the book. I mean, I'm not bragging. I just looking at comics, we occasionally you'll look at a Marvel or a DC output, and you'll see mistakes and stuff in there, and we got none of that in our books. Our books are as good or better quality than what Marvel's putting out. Artists and stuff aside, I'm not saying that every artist that we have in there is, the latest Marvel guy or girl, but the quality of the books is incredible, and we have to thank Christian and guys like Dustin and our senior editor Mark, who really, they really go beyond what an editor does. I've seen what they do to the stories, going back and forth, and really try yanking and pulling the best stories out of their writers, and then going back and I have more involvement with the art and getting that art up up to the spec, going beyond. Not every artist is Marvel quality yet. I always talk about the artist. An artist's path in life it's a journey. It never ends. And I'll look at stuff that I did 10 years ago and cringe a little bit, but that's still ahead of some other people are, right? So we get the best out of whoever we choose to accept into our stories. We get the very best out of them, and I think for the most part we've had very little tension or cracks or anything in that. People really find it to be a positive experience. Which is the coolest thing. Christian always likes to say, this is not our day job. We don't have to put up with shit. We don't have to, kiss up to the boss or anything like that. Because we're the bosses, right? So, but we have fun doing this, and if we're not having a good time, we're not going to have you back. And we've had very few stories of that type of thing going on. It's been just a great experience throughout. And it will be going forward for 3 and 4.
Absolutely.
So we are Fugitive Poems, and we make comics. So I'm not going to talk about finding me separately, because there is no separation from Christian and I. We're Fugitive Poems. There is no. I don't do comics with anyone else, and I wouldn't want it. We're it together. That's it.
Absolutely.
I got to keep it.
Yeah, it's almost scary, like we are like an old married couple in some ways. Like we complete each other's sentences when we're talking, and I used to actually, I do some crazy shit on ink, with ink and paper, like crazy stuff, and I used to be like worried to show stuff to him. Now I'll just show him anything, and he's never come back and said, "Oh well, that sucks. You got to do that again." He likes all my craziest ideas, and I think it's the same way with the scripts. He'll send me some far out stuff, like Thermoclines is pretty far out, but we just it's like sparks fly, whenever we get together and do stuff, especially live. We spend a lot of time on this Zoom, which I kind of hate Zoom. I wish we could go back 3 years and just I remember the first time I was told by my job, "Oh, you got to start doing Zoom," and I was like, "Fuck that, dude! I don't want to sit there," and I hated it. I think I still do. I just become, I've been beaten into it now. But I really love going down and sitting with Christian at his house and really just going back and forth on our ideas.
For sure,
it's the greatest thing in the world. And I believe Matthew was asking for a piece of wisdom. If you're an artist, or I would guess a writer, get yourself together with the other side. Get yourself together with a writer or artist. You're going to grow and learn so much. I think a lot of, particularly comic artists, they spend a lot of time on their own in their houses, right? And they do their stuff. I was just, you guys were talking about the Hill brothers. They were talking about having stuff, in their closets and stuff. I have a lot of that stuff too, but getting out there and working with Christian and expanding my safe zones with Christian, because him asking me to do these things that I would never think to draw on my own, it's made me grow so much as an artist. And if whether you're a beginner or you're 50 years old, get together and collaborate with someone. It's the greatest thing you could possibly do. I'm so happy that Christian got me into this. So that's my word of advice. Get yourself out there, get out of your own head, and put yourself out there and challenge yourself by working with either a writer or a comic artist, either one.
Get out of your comfort zone. We've had multiple guests where we've asked, what would you give advice to somebody? And like, if I remember the first person that really said it was Heather Anto. She goes, just don't feel stupid. Just ask. She's like, email the person, email the editor, email, whoever you think is too big for you. You never know. What's the worst they're going to say? No.
Yeah, that's true.
So reach out.
They've already said no unless you don't ask. So
well, there you go. Profound wisdom right there from Matt.
Shoot your shot.
There you go. Christian,
shoot your shot. Yeah.
What do you have for us as we wrap up?
Well, so I'm going to take this moment to tell people to get over to Kickstarter, the Containment Breach campaign. We've got when this goes live, probably between 15 and 20 days left on the campaign. This is an incredible book. It's 140 pages of the wildest sci-fi comics of 2023, and we have some incredible reward tiers, including Jack Van Tome, Jacopo Calisti. I just found out I've been saying his name wrong. And Jay Sheik did with their teams did movie posters for their comics in the book, faux movie posters. The Yankovic theorem is a riff on The Graduate, actually, with a giant chicken where Mrs. Robinson would be. And that you can get those posters. We also are both college professors. One of our tiers is a script review by me or a portfolio review by James Lyons, and that comes with the book. This incredible, beautiful book. We also have a cameo tier where you can have your face in a panel. Somebody actually we just nailed down somebody's going to be in volume 4. I always
wanted to be killed in something. That's awesome.
Okay, dude. I've got to send this to you. I did a video about it the other day. We have a $1,000 tier just for the heck of it. We're trying. If you want to be your likeness, your name, you're the star of a short comic from Fugitive Poems. And if we're making it, we're going to kill you in a horrendous, inglorious, and gory way. I promise you. I mean, you will have an end that you'll be semi-ashamed of, but also proud.
I love it.
So that we'll make the comic about you, and that's one of our other tiers. We've got a legacy tier. The last time you can get volumes 1 and 2 together with 3, and a lot of other really cool stuff. We've got days left on this campaign, and I want it to go all the way out there because I want to get the book in as many houses and shops as I can so people can see these are contributors like Dustin and Gabe and Jack Van Tome who did Sleepstream, like the Hill brothers, like Tay Bellick and Giacomo Calisti, like Fern Lamb, J.D. Harlock. We got these incredible people in this book, and I want everyone to see what they can do. We've had a bunch of people go from volume 1 and 2 over to Marvel, DC, and Boom and other companies because this is what we decided to do, is put them out there. But if not for any other reason, we only put out comics we want to read. Every story in this book is a banger, and that's because that's all we'll allow in. Mm-hmm. I hate when I get an anthology and there's like 2 good stories, 3 ass stories, and 5 terrible stories, right? Every story is a banger. Even if it's not your exact cup of tea, you're going to be awed by the way it was put together. And then you'll move to the next story, which will knock you on your ass. They are, and I am so, and I can say that because they're not all my stories. I'm not bragging about me here. Our contributors are incredible. So that get over to Kickstarter, Containment Breach of Clouds and Ether. Get your copy now. You want this book. And we'll be at Terrificon in July if you want to meet us. That's in Connecticut. We'll be at Terrificon. Go to our YouTube page. Where I interview all of our contributors individually. There's more Dustin Luke Nelson there, which we all need. Subscribe and join. And the piece of wisdom that I'll leave you with is when you're in a diner and you order corned beef hash, get them to put white toast on the bottom, put the corned beef hash on top of that, and 2 sunny side eggs up top. They have to build it that way. This way, when you get it, you can break the yolk. It goes right through. It's a perfect meld, and that is the best advice I can give anyone for life.
But we really appreciate you guys coming on. Head to the Kickstarter. The link is going to be in the bio of this episode. So click on it, check it out. There's a tier for everybody. I was looking at it, whether you want a digital copy of a story for $5, whether you want the whole thing for $30, a nice physical copy. There's something for everybody out there. Get it. Support some of these creators. Not everything has to be a superhero story. And I personally love a really good anthology because, like you said, these stories, it's my ADHD brain just loves jumping from story to story. And so check it out.
And I love building on the myths. And obviously Matt is on season 5 of his supernatural journey. And that's a lot of what they've done is take all of this mythology and spin it to their own. So it's always fun to see a unique perspective on these. Like me, but I got him.
Your mythology freaks.
I'll put a little adventure in your ear. Lauren was asking about collaborations there. Christian and I have been throwing around the idea that Containment Breach 5 might be all sequels. We have enough stories that we think we won't have every story from the other ones, but people who are willing and like you said, who have that itch. We were thinking about making the culmination Containment Breach volume, which is going to be 5. We're going to do 5 in the series. The sort of comebacks, maybe mixed in, or maybe the whole thing, depending on how many we got. So it should be really cool.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
I just saw something so cool. I only know me as a writer. I watched Dustin as you announced that, James, and I saw my brain on his face. I watched him go through his stories and start figuring it happened. I've never seen it. I saw on Dustin's face what happens in my soul when I get an idea. That was really cool.
I am
in real time.
Transparent.
That was amazing. And by the way, I busted this out earlier. You guys are trying to get rid of us. I'm so sorry. I'll just really quick. This is from Megan Archer. She put out this anthology called Twisting Time. And Dustin has a story in here with Sam Prouse. Sam Prouse, who did a story with Travis Hill for Volume 3 of Containment Breach, by the way. I haven't mentioned the comicjam.com. A lot of great folks there. But Dustin he talked about expanding. We're talking about when you can expand a story and it works. I happen to have seen a script for an expansion of this incredible story by Dustin Luke Nelson and Sam Prouse that he did figure out how to make this. Look at that goat. That's amazing. How to make this into a longer piece. So that man right there does know how to write something and make it more. And watching your brain just turn on again, as James said, that was incredibly invigorating. I want to write right now.
I feel very seen at the moment.
You're his muse.
I've been here. But seriously, head to the show if you want to support patreon.com/HopsGeekNews. You know where to find us on the socials. You know where to find us on our email, all that good stuff, all of our podcasting platforms. Find these amazing gentlemen, and not to mention them, but everybody else who played a significant part in these anthology series. Support really great art. Support great artists, writers. And like they've all collectively said, get out of your comfort zone, do something weird. And until next week, we'll see y'all later.
That was also the advice from Valentine.